What's up guys, Christian here with Forward Momentum. On this episode, I'm going to walk you through the steps required to get your intake sound to come out of your car stereo. If you see my last episode, you know that you can make your car sound insane. Have a listen to this. The overwhelming response to that previous episode was positive. There were a couple comments in there about it being a little bit cheesy or corny, and I agree. When I first thought of this idea, I said, this is gonna be corny, it's not gonna work, and I probably won't ever do an episode on it. But after I installed that thing, and I cranked it up, and I drove around, I was laughing. The problem with my GS400 is, if you put an intake system on that thing, it just hates it. The car runs like crap with an intake system on it. And if you don't believe me, see one of my previous episodes about how this intake system totally screwed up my car. So I went back to stock and I said, you know what? I really want more intake sound out of this thing. How in the heck can I do it? And I started thinking outside the box, and that's what led me to this device, which I'm going to share with you today. What I like about this device is it is not expensive. That was number one. It is under $20 US. I will link it in the description below, and you are going to see today how I installed this thing. Now, the main thing about this device is that it's small, it's cheap, and it is adjustable. So if you want a fully adjustable microphone, this is the one for you. You can actually adjust the sensitivity on it. So if you're getting some wind noise or some other sounds that you're not liking, you can turn it down. If it's not sensitive enough and you're having to crank your volume way up, you can actually turn the sensitivity up on the microphone. So let's take a look at this device. I bet you can't even see it right now. I'm going to point where it is, and you're probably going to say, okay, I see it now. Here it is right here. And basically what it is one of those things that you wear. If you're giving a presentation, it allows a broadcast from an FM frequency station to receiving devices such as a car stereo or similar. There's a switch right up here. I actually have it mounted upside down. And then I have a charging system installed into it, which I'll walk you through the steps on how I did that. You'll see that the microphone boom, I'll call it, is flexible. It comes right up through here, through this hole, which I put a grommet in, and it goes into my intake system. And if you're wondering about my intake system here, this is the BFI intake. I have a previous episode on that. So if you are curious about the intake system, you can look that up. But this would work on any vehicle with an intake. A school bus, a turbo car, a huge truck, anything that makes noise, this is going to pick it up and put it to your car stereo. Now I'm going to use a screwdriver in this case to turn it on, because the switch is hard for my finger to actually switch on. It's right here, and it's upside down. Now as you can see, it's on 89.1. That is actually a bad frequency on my radio, which is good. You want a bad frequency. You don't want radio station interference. So you want to find yourself a station that works in your area. And then this is going to broadcast whatever sound it's picking up from inside here to your car stereo. And once I have this cover off, you can take a look. And here is the microphone boom, the flexible one that comes up and through. And I found this to be a good location because it's out of the stream of air that's coming into the intake box. And also I have a fresh air duct that's right down in there. You can see that silver. That fresh air duct, I noticed when I had it in a previous location, had a lot of wind noise. You want to keep this microphone boom out of any flow of air coming in through your grill or anywhere else. This is where mine is located. Results may vary for you and your intake setup. You might choose to install this in a different location, and it's up to you. This is actually a mount that goes over your ear. It's mounted up in there, and then I just zip tied it on here. You don't want to cut that off. And the reason you don't want to is because that's where the FM antenna is. It's inside of that. I thought about cutting it off, and then I looked a little closer, and sure enough, there's an antenna in there. So you want to leave this thing intact exactly as it comes, and then secure it to your location just like I did. Now, one of the problems that I ran into is this thing has, maybe it's a lithium battery, I'm not sure, but it lasts about 8 hours. So if you leave this thing on, it's gonna die on you at some point. And the problem with that is once it dies and then you restore it by recharging it, it's going to default back to its FM station, which is some weird station. You're not going to remember the station that you had it on. So if it dies on you and you recharge it and wake it back up again, it's not going to go back to that station, in my case 89.1. That is one drawback. You really need to stay up on charging this thing and turning it off and on. I hardwired this in directly to my battery. So you can see this thing right here is plugged in to this. And what I did was I ran a positive lead through here to right here, so I can disconnect it easily. And then that, of course, goes right to the battery. So there's also a negative off of this, and I grounded that to the chassis of the car, and I can show you that here in a second. I'll take off this cover. So I basically, when I plug that thing in up there, if I'm gonna go on, you know, a longer drive or go run some errands or whatever, and I want my intake sound and I don't want the thing to die on me, I just plug that in. It's a very low amperage draw off the battery, and if you have a healthy battery, it's just not gonna kill your battery. This is what's under that cover. Show you the negative lead goes right up here to the chassis ground. It's a nice convenient location right up there. Then this runs to that charging system right here, goes all the way up. Here's your plug. It's not plugged in right now. And then to the positive of your battery. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and plug in this connection. I just want you guys to see what happens. I can show you some of the settings on this thing. So you can adjust the sensitivity. I have it on 12 because I hit the button. But right here, see, that's as high as it'll go. And then that's where I had it, was 10. So you need to fiddle around. As you go down, that means it's less sensitive. So I'm gonna go back to my setting of 10. Okay, I got that set. Now you can set the station that you want to broadcast by hitting the button again. And this is where you can go up and down to whatever you want. Place the microphone in a good location. Make sure it's not rubbing on something because it'll make a weird sound. And you're just gonna have to play around with this thing. You're gonna have a lot of fun. This is my routine when I go to drive my car. Come out to it in the garage and I decide at this point if I want my intake amplifier to be on or not. In this case, I do want it to be on, and I've already popped my hood. I'm gonna show you guys how I access it. One thing worth noting is that I know that I left this thing on last night and it died. I'm gonna show you what it defaults to when it dies. The frequency is actually 108.0, which I can't get on my stereo. I can only get to 107.9. If I turn this thing on, I'm gonna flip this around. You can see 108.0 is the default because it died. So the blue light is very weak on it right now. It looks like it's on, but it's extremely weak. That's where this wiring comes in handy because it's hardwired. I can plug this wire in like that. And now you can see that we have power, but what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to set the FM frequency. So I'm gonna hit that. It also defaulted to the setting of 7, and I had it on 10, you guys might recall. And then I'll hit the button again, and now I'm gonna go to 89. I'm actually gonna put it on 89.3. I already made the change inside the vehicle. That seemed to be a good station. So it's on 89.3, it's upside down. So you can see there, then it disappears, it's plugged in. So now it's charging. So it's as simple as that to get it back up and running. You're not gonna hear much when you initially start your car up, unless you crank it really loud, and you're only gonna hear some pulley noise and some intake noise. So I typically keep it low if I want the intake thing to be on. If you have a Bluetooth transmitter, all you do is switch to that station, and now my Bluetooth is connected. And then if you want intake noise, switch back, go back to Bluetooth, go back to intake, or whatever your setup is. But that's how I do it. I found that when you turn down the treble, it gets a lot of that hissing away, and I also like to turn the fader a little bit to the back. And my midtones, you can also turn that down a bit. And it gets rid of that hissing. See, it's gone now. I have to crank it up to hear the hissing. So if you're looking for the intake sound, those are the recommended settings I have, or whatever your car stereo equalizer looks like. Turn the treble all the way down, turn the mid-range all the way down, and keep the bass up. The fader back a little bit, and it's gonna sound pretty good. You're not gonna hear much when the car is cold, because you really shouldn't be revving it hard anyway. When I back out of my garage, it's gonna go over the lift. I have a lift underneath my car, so you're gonna see it bump up, and I have to rev it a little bit. That light and flywheel makes me have to rev it quite a bit. But you don't hear anything out of the stereo right now unless you really get on it. So you just hear a little bit right there. All right, so I'm gonna get back out into the road here and then we'll continue. Now when you're driving normal, depending on where your volume is, you're really not gonna hear much. Right now you can hear a little bit because I have it turned up pretty high. But if I just turn it down like that, I just hear normal exhaust sound. If you absolutely have to hear your intake, you're gonna need to crank it way up when the car is cold. So now you hear a lot of engine noise. And that's just getting on it a little bit. We'll leave it up as we pull out into traffic here. But again, I'm gonna go slow. Got it cranked up halfway. Just passed by a police officer and got nailed on radar, and I was going the speed limit. Oh yeah. So you can, a little bit of sound there. And then if it gets annoying, just turn it down a bit. Now you just hear my exhaust. Unless I put my foot down. Then a little bit of intake sound. It's really easy to put in. It's really easy to charge. And in the winter time when you have your windows up and you want to hear some engine noise, it's a fantastic way to do it. I got it cranked way up now. Gotta watch out for those walkers. So you listen to music like this, and then you can switch to intake by the push of a button. Ready? I want music. No, I want intake. Music. Intake. Simple as that. Pulled into the garage, parked, lights off, car off, and now I'm going to show you what I have to do to take care of the intake amplifier. Well, there you have it, guys, the intake amplifier and what it takes to get that thing installed and up and running. What are your thoughts? Leave a comment below. All the instructions and the parts you're going to need are going to be found in the video description. I appreciate you joining me. If you're not already a subscriber, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button as well, and leave a comment. I appreciate your support. We'll see you on the next episode.